Oh. Presentation.
Be alive, Mr. Chair.
I see my. Funny guy. It's good presentation.
All right, gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon to all. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory and the home and the traditional lands of the Ojibwe, Cree, Dakota people, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson this afternoon. Introducing the panel members. Presently, we have Robert Balensky, and via the Zoom is Robert Hutchings. Our recording secretary is Jaswinder Kumar, and representing the city from the assessment department is Mr. Clayton Deitchen. I don't think we have to do the Zoom for the time being because the applicant is present and it was the only one. So this afternoon, we'll be hearing application of revision for the revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and we'll limit discussions to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anybody speaking these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered market value by the Board of Revision. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it along with the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at this hearing and issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision in respect to application may be appealed to the municipal board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to application from exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing this afternoon, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed, with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have. It'll be then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each party will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order. You will receive the board's order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 through 8 on our docket this afternoon. I'll ask our secretary, Mr. Kumar, to either affirm or swear in the assessor and deal with, you might as well swear in Mr. Smith also and Mr. Story, who might be given evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Clayton Deitchen.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Story, please state your full name.
Sid Story.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank
Please.
you.
Mr. Smith, please state your full name.
Trevor Smith.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Thank you. Please sit.
Welcome, gentlemen. You're no strangers. We're all familiar with the routine that is going to proceed. So, Mr. Deitchen, the first property we have is 299.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt. The applicant has something to say.
All right.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, to interrupt. Our only suggestion was that 45 Bolton Bay and 85 Paget Street are both independent living. So it might make sense to do those consecutively. So that was all I wanted to point out.
Okay, Mr. Smith, state that for me again. Which ones are independent living?
Number 2, 45 Bolton Bay,
Okay,
and number 4, 85 Paget Street.
okay. So they're independent living, so you want to do them right after each other?
I just thought it might be easier for all involved with the information being similar.
All right. Okay, so let's deal with Queen Street, and then we'll go to Bolton, and we'll eliminate for the time being Keniston, and then go to Paget. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Mr. Deitchen, is that okay with you?
Yep.
All right. So we're going to go to 299 Queenston Street. Mr. Deitchen, the floor is yours.
Okay. File number 223591. Roll number 0700587700. And the address is 299 Queen Street. Roll year 2023, reference date is April 1st, 2021. Assessed value 25,079,000. Residential 2 taxable liability. It is a 1978 year built with a 10-year effective age on it. Just going down to page 3, we got 41 bedrooms, 125 2 bedrooms, for a total of 165 suites. Average monthly rent is $1258.18. Looking ahead to the applicant's evidence, there isn't any disputes on the NOI. It's just a cap rate stuff, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But our NOI is $1,360,667 with a cap rate of 5.25%, giving us the value of $25,079,000. Page 4 is our rent comparables. As you can see, it falls in the low end of the range of average monthly rent per unit. They're all relatively similar in effectively year built. Page 5, we go into the cap rate evidence. Essentially, this is actual sales that took place during the reference period, and the purpose is to show the individual capitalization rates to display the accuracy of the model and substantiate the model derived cap rates. These aren't meant to be comparables to the subject property. In the table, you can see that we got a range of essentially 4 3/4 to 5 3/4, with the one that's kind of an outlier at 3.6%. Page 6 shows the table of the City of Winnipeg cap rates. If you look under the multifamily section, you can see 4.8 in the 20th percentile, and 80th percentile is 5.6. So it shows that we're within that range. Next page, the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Page 8, we have the income statements for the subject property. Page 10, just have a permit here for replacing the air makeup system with hot and cold package rooftop unit, valued at $182,000, just showing that they've been keeping up the place and updating some of the attributes there. Page 11 kind of gives you a little overview of the different features of the building, amenities, and whatnot. Page 12 and forward are pictures of the building, and inside some of the suites you can see some of the newer floors, trim, stainless steel appliances. And yeah, like this is in a pretty good location near Polo Park with very low vacancy. That's my evidence.
I thank you, Mr. Deitchen. Mr. Smith, questions or Mr. Story also. So, but I understand Sid, they're feeling under the weather, so sorry to hear that. So, Mr. Smith, questions of the assessor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in fairness to the assessment department, we have made some adjustments to the valuation. So I know that Mr. Deitchen had said that we were in agreement on NOI and that, so he kind of skipped over a section. So if he wanted to review his rents or things like that, I certainly understand.
Yeah, I understand, Mr. Smith. I've gone through the whole sort of docket, and the applicant, like you say, has agreed on the majority of NOIs on these properties, and it's just a question of cap rate. So I think we can almost skip a lot of formalities and cut to the chase in regards to it's just cap rate. So you can still ask questions right now, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so understood, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that. What I was pointing out, I guess, is that I've had the opportunity to review the information on some of the properties and have made a few adjustments. So what I was saying was, in fairness to Mr. Deitchen, we have made some adjustments to income, expenses, NOI on a few properties, this being one of them. So if he wanted to cover his rental portion, I would understand that.
Okay, but the floor was open to you in regards to their presentation.
Right, I'm trying to be fair here, I guess.
Okay.
So if you wanted to give Mr. Deitchen the opportunity to review the rents, I would understand that, I guess, is what I'm saying on his presentation.
Well, I think he's.
I could, but I don't know what you're gonna.
Okay.
Okay, so I think he's done his presentation.
Okay.
Questions to him?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We'll try and be efficient with these. So with regard to, I guess with regard to all the properties today, just given workloads at the assessment department, have you had the opportunity to inspect any of the properties?
No, I have not.
Okay, certainly understandable. Looking at the capitalization rate for the subject property at 5.25%, is that do you know how the model derives that particular cap rate? Is that largely age driven, or?
I think there's multiple factors that go into it, but I don't know.
Okay.
So.
Okay. In looking at the income and expense for the property, the gross potential rent is lower than the model, and the actual expenses for the relevant year are somewhat higher as well. Would that drive a lower market value than what the city's model has projected?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, just in looking at the income and expense for the subject property, the gross potential rent that is reported by the property owners is a fair bit lower than that projected by the city, and the expenses are somewhat higher in the relevant year. Would that produce a lower market value than what the city's model has generated?
I'm just double checking the numbers here. I mean, potentially, I mean, it looks like we're pretty close, like expenses are almost 1.1 million and they're at 1.12 million.
Okay. Mr. Story, did you have any
No, I'm fine.
any questions? I think that's all of our questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Deitchen, I'm looking on page 3 of your income workup. And it's, I guess that calculation of gross potential rent is an average of 1 and 2 bedrooms. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've used 165 times 1258 approximately.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And on the capitalization rates chart on page 6, this would be considered a multifamily high-rise, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's my only questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Ms. Berletsky?
No questions.
Mr. Deitchen, everything is model driven, and because of the age, location, and the structure itself, the model is at 5.25% cap rate.
Correct.
Okay. I think, Mr. Smith, we're ready for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 299 Queen Street. This property is a mid-rise tower. It is located adjacent to Polo Park, so on the west side of St. James Street, south of Ness. There is the location, kind of by the where the fire hall is, I guess. The subject property is originally built in 1978, has surface parking, and the units are average sized for the suite count, whether they be 1 or 2 bedroom. They're fairly standard in that regard. In terms of the finishes of the units, there hasn't been a full refresh of the property done or anything of that nature. If you look at some of the photos, you can see the original cabinetry in the kitchens, etc. That being said, they have done some refresh in units where damage has been done and tenants move out. They have been doing some upgrading, so it's a bit of a mix in terms of the finish inside. The one thing I would point out with this property is the balconies. So we are looking at a property built in 1978, and each of these units, with the exception of the main floor, does have a concrete balcony. Now, the issue with balconies is the expense of maintaining them, and on a maintenance basis, on an annual basis, and then the rebuilding issue of them when they deteriorate to such a point. So in my discussions with numerous property management professionals in the multi-residential side, they tell me that repair of balconies, it should be done on a 20-year basis, essentially. And that in the current time frame, we're looking between $30,000 and $40,000 per balcony in terms of the cost of repair and maintenance, with annual costs that can run in $1,000 or slightly above range. So the subject property is one of those properties, again, built in 78. So that will be an issue for it on an ongoing basis. So there would be significant capital that would need to be outlaid on that. With regard to the valuation of the subject property, following submission of the evidence and Mr. Story's health with me coming in to have a look at the property, I've reviewed the income and expense for the subject property. So if we look at page 8 of the City of Winnipeg's evidence, it will give you a very different picture from the model. So if we look at, again, page 8, we have residential rental income of $2,338,507 on a fully occupied basis at full rental rates. Then we have discounts of over $78,000. We have rent, or rather parking rent to be added to that of a little under $30,000, and vacancy of over $27,000. So that ends up giving us a net rental income of $2,262,477. $262,477 rather. That is inclusive of vacancy. So if we take that figure, $2,262,477, then we look at the expenses, which are summarized on page number 9. So the total operating expenses, not including some owner's expenses, etc., come to $1,120,000, $1,120,187. So doing the deduction, or the reducing that to the net operating income, we come to an NOI of $1,142,290 for this relevant year. Now,
Okay,
if we compare that,
Mr. Smith,
yes,
there is the present, your presentation and Mr. Story's presentation. We have it in front of us. So are you changing all these figures then?
Having had the opportunity to review it, yes, I am changing it because of the significant difference in the actuals for the subject property. The property would be overvalued if it were based on the NOI that the model has produced. If you look at what the actuals are.
But Mr. Smith, your presentation, I mean, we can only deal with what we have in front of us.
Yeah, and I certainly understand that, Mr. Chair, and I understand the difficulty with that. I guess what I would say is we do have it in front of us in that we have the income and expense statement that was submitted to the City of Winnipeg in evidence before us. So while it was not done that way in the original brief, which I was not involved in at that time, that evidence does sit before us. So that's what I'm reviewing. So shall I continue, or?
Well, it's all I'm saying is that we have in front of us an NOI of $1,316,267 and a cap rate that Mr. Story was using of 5.5. So this is what I'm saying is that you're not presenting this here data that was submitted to the board. So you're changing everything.
Understood.
Now, Mr. Smith, is this new evidence or is this almost like a rebuttal? I'm trying to decipher what exactly. Normally you come in and you do your presentation and you defend your presentation.
Absolutely. So I do understand the difficulty, Mr. Chair. I guess in trying to be helpful for you with regard to the situation, I was not involved in the initial valuation of.
I realize that, Trevor. I realize that, Trevor. But this is almost like, it's like new evidence. So I'm not sure whether the city would object and say, this is new evidence. I'm not too sure of. So, Mr. Deitchen, what are your thoughts in regards to what is happening here?
Mr. Chair, may I ask one question before we talk to the assessor?
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
just to understand, you're using are you presenting the income and expense statement in your brief?
I'm not sure that it has or hasn't been included in our brief. Typically, it should be included in the brief.
I didn't see it there. Maybe I missed it.
No,
I flipped through there.
And so my question is, you're using the assessor's evidence to revise your presentation and your valuation.
That's what's unfortunately going on here. It's not part, it's not part of your presentation. You're going to the assessor's information and making it part of your presentation, which is not really correct.
Okay, I certainly understand that, and I understand the difficulty with it. What typically it should be in the appellant's brief. I see that it's not. The reason for making the change, obviously, is the significant difference between what the actuals are and the assessment department's projections. Now, if you wish to have us stick strictly with the originals, we can do so, I suppose.
Well,
I will probably point out the delta in the net income, but
I see both ways. Okay. I think under the circumstances, what we're going to probably do is do about a 5-minute adjournment, talk to the panel members and see what exactly we should be doing here. I know, under the circumstances, you're almost like coming in and defending Mr. Story's presentation, but changing it too, after your review. Well, I'm not, so I can see your position too. So let's take a 5-minute adjournment and shut it down, and the panel members will discuss this and see what we're, what is the rightful direction.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a moment.
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
East Indian from his movie, and then have to very long as it.
Be alive, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thanks, Jaswinder. Okay, we'll call the hearing back to order. Mr. Smith, after our meeting with the panel members, you're going to have to deal with the information that was submitted and defend that position. Otherwise, you're going to be introducing new evidence, which is not, which will not be allowed. So therefore, Mr. Smith, we're going to turn the floor over to you, and you'll have to deal with the information that was submitted and defend that value. You can not introduce new information. However, you could probably change some of the figures, whether it be the cap rate or something like that. So, Mr. Smith, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and appreciate, I guess, clarifying that position. And I'd like to apologize, I suppose, to the panel as well as the assessor for it's a situational issue. We're not, there's no intent to mislead here or anything. I've had the opportunity to review this information last evening, so we haven't been able to do any updates or communicate it. So I will, as you suggest,
Trevor, I don't think that was the case to mislead or anything like that. I'm just saying that we have, you know, on the board, we're presented with documentation and facts and figures. We have to deal with what we have in front of us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Understood. Okay, so we can move forward here then. Back to 299 Queen Street. So we've discussed the location of the property, the units themselves, the age, the balcony issue. And I guess we are essentially looking at cap rate at this point. So I'll skip forward to our what's numbered as page number 2 there. So as you had pointed out, we arrived at the same net operating income as the city of Winnipeg. If I may, Mr. Chair, the only thing that I will point out is that the actual net operating income is significantly lower than that projection. We will not rely upon that. Simply point out the fact that the actuals, as far as the NOI, would be in the neighborhood of $150,000 less than that NOI projected. Now, with regard to capitalization rate, if we look at our brief, well, before we get to that point, I'll take us quickly through some photos. Perhaps if you look at pages 7 and 8, that gives you an indication of the original cabinetry and kitchen. So that's largely what the property is like. There has been, on a suite by suite basis, some updates when required. Now let's flip forward to page number 11 and onward. So page number 11 is the fair tax apartment sales list with cap rates listed. So if you look at these transactions from 21 upwards, they are all in the 2020, 2021 timeframe. Well, 1 or 2 in the 2019 timeframe. And we're looking at cap rates that are generally 5% at the low end, with highs in the order of 7.28%. If we look at 401 Uville properties such as that, there's a range there. Obviously, there's a range in construction date, there's a range in size of the property in terms of number of units, location, etc. But the cap rates that we're seeing, there are a couple that are sub 4, which are, I believe, renovation properties where they were purchased for renovation for the future. But by and large, the caps are indicating 5 to 6 plus in some cases. Now, the average cap rate range, as shown on page number 11 there, comes to 6.16%. Now, let's flip forward to page number 17. And we have capitalization rates from new build properties. So these would be properties that would have no upside in terms of being any purchaser's ability to improve the cash flow from the property as they're brand new. So they're essentially as good as they get. So these would be your premier properties. So our cap rates here on page 18, 2390 McPhillips, newly built in 2015, cap rate of 5%. 401 Uville, built in 2020, cap rate of 7.28. 803 St. Mary's, a little lower at 4.62. That's a smaller property. 703 St. Anne's, newly built in 2020. That's a luxury apartment, 5.27%. 100 Lumen, built in 2021, sold at just under 5%, 4.95. So that's the premier end of the range. If we look at the back of the brief here somewhere, and forgive me for not having the page number in front of me, but typically the back of the brief, I think, includes the information from Colliers with regard to their capitalization rate publication. And they're indicating in 2021 a high-rise range of 5% to 6%. So the subject property, built in 78, older interiors, all of them having balconies, which, as I'd stated, do have significant capital expenditures required. It's not going to be at the low end. We have conservatively applied a cap rate of 5.5% to the net operating income. So if you look at page number 2 and you apply 5.5% to that NOI, we come to $23,938,000. Now, again, in looking at that, please keep in mind that the actual NOI would be lower than that projected figure. Did you have anything to add, Mr. Story?
Oh, just that this particular property has no amenities. And as a matter of fact, they have an association within the building of seniors, an informal association to represent each other's interests. It's an older building. It's on Route 90. It's most famous for the ho-ho sign every Christmas. That's all. It's just an older building.
That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Story, are you finished?
Yes, I'm fine. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hutchins, questions?
Perhaps Mr. Deitchen?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
My phone.
I had a couple questions.
All right.
I know we're not necessarily mentioning NOI too much here, but did you do a stabilization on the expenses?
I did not have the opportunity to do a stabilization on the expenses. We had I had the single year to look at.
Okay. Would you agree that it'd be difficult to put any weight onto that NOI without doing a stabilization on the property?
I would agree that it would be optimal to be able to do a 3-year review of the property in order to come up with a stabilization. However, I would say that it is indicative of the projected NOI being too high.
If we scroll to page 46 on the applicant's evidence, it says 46 in the corner. It might be a different number on the PDF though. Everyone there?
Yeah.
Everyone find it?
Yeah.
1745 Henderson. Okay. The subject is 11 stories. 1745 Henderson is the only high rise on your cap rate evidence, correct?
I would have to go through them here in order to determine that. I think 2390 McPhillips is also a high rise.
I think that one's only 4 or 5 stories, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm afraid I can't really answer that question.
Okay. The cap rate on this property is 4.24%, correct?
That is what it indicates, yes.
And the sale took place just before the reference date, correct?
So again, we're referring to the single property of 1745 Henderson.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The sale of this property was built in 1982 and is similar in age to the subject property, correct?
It's similar in age. I can't speak to any updates, etc., that may have been done to this particular property, as this again is information that was not submitted by myself.
Okay. I looked at most of the sales and this one would be the most similar to the subject property. So I'm just wondering how there would be a difference of 1 1/4 cap between the two.
Well, so you're singling out a single transaction from the evidence that's presented. So if we again flip forward to the capitalization rate studies presented on both page 18 and page 11. As you can see, the vast majority of transactions occur above that 5% capitalization rate. So with regard to the particular sale that you're indicating, I do not have the information in front of me with regard to whether that property was renovating and was generating higher rents, what the amenities of the property are, et cetera, et cetera. So I couldn't really comment with regard to that being the sole comparable. But when you look at the bulk of transactions, they do indicate higher with the new transactions of the premier properties essentially bottoming out at 5%.
Okay. Are you aware that the 2020 Board of Revision decision was at 5.25% cap rate?
I was not aware of that myself, no.
And do you know if that was appealed to the municipal board?
I believe so. I think so.
I myself am not certain. Mr. Story thinks that it was appealed to the municipal board. I do not have that information, so I can't really comment on that.
Okay, I didn't see it being appealed. That's all my questions.
I thank you, Mr. Hutchins.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Smith, I'm looking at your comparables for the cap rate study, and I'm wondering, some of them, a couple of them are new builds. How do you establish a cap rate when there's no income and expense statement available on a new build?
So that's not entirely, I guess in order to fairly answer that, they're not sold while the property is being developed. They're sold once it has been built and tenanted. So property, and I'm not looking at any particular one here, but I'm familiar with a few of them. They were built in 2020, sold in 2021 when they were tenanted. So there is the in-place revenue for the property, as well as expenses that they could either where they either have a full year of expenses, or they can extrapolate what the actual full year fully occupied expenses would be.
Okay.
So it is based on actuals.
So I'm looking at 2390 McPhillips. Sale date was 2020. Is that a new build, or what year is that building?
2015.
Okay. Oh, I see it now. Okay, second page. Then I look at Uville 401, built in 2020 and sold in October of 2020. And yet there's a cap rate established.
Yeah, so that's a relatively small property. So the lease up period for it would be fairly short. So they would have tenancies in place for it, I believe,
Okay.
once the cap rate was done.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, all these list a selling price per unit. Is that considered in a comparison compared to the subject property?
I'm not. Can you point me to what you're looking at, Mr. Hutchins?
Sure. Price per unit on the first one on St. Mary's Road is $250,000. Just underneath the selling price. They all break them down per unit of selling price.
Are we looking at page 11?
No, page 22. I'm sorry. Page 21 and 22, where you start listing the pictures.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So they break it down per unit. The next one, 703 St. Anne's Road, 271,000.
Yeah, no, I see where you're indicating now. So with regard to that, it varies. That can vary significantly based on the revenue of the property, right? So if you have a 3-story walk-up, etc., the net revenue for it will be dramatically different than for a new build. So you'll have some much higher prices per units for some newer ones and some lower ones for older ones. So no, we don't. That's a direct sales comparison approach, and that's not the model that is utilized for the assessment system. So no, we don't look at that specifically. When a property is, of course, traded based on its net income, it's most fairly valued on that basis, as both the city and appellants agree.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. That's my only, my only questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I thank you. Ms. Berlenti?
I have no questions.
Thank you.
I don't have any either. Either party want summation at all? Mr. Deitchen, Mr. Smith?
I'm fine, Mr. Chair.
I also had rebuttal. I don't know, is that to present now?
You have rebuttal?
Yeah, it was sent in.
All right. We'll deal with that then. So,
Not yet.
Des Winder, he's
I'll
got a
print it
key.
for you. I'll print it for you, Mrs. Smith.
Okay.
And this rebuttal is going to pertain to all those properties.
Okay. Des Winder, you're going to do that? Do you need time to do that?
I need time to print it for Mr. Smith, Mr. Chair.
All right,
Can we go on a break for a moment?
sure. Let's take 5 minutes then.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
He's got some.
Installs.
It's 49.
We are live, Mr. Chair.
49.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we'll call the meeting back to order. Mr. Deitchen, you have rebuttal to present.
Yeah.
Proceed.
Yeah, so this is for 2390 McPhillips. Like we talked about before, it's a 2015 year built. Sale was October 2020. And this is a 3-year stabilization done actually by a colleague of mine. You can see it in the notes column how each value has come to. Giving us expenses of $547,907.77. And the effective gross income $1,476,295.54. Coming to the NOI of $928,387.77. Using the sale price of $19,400,000. The cap rate is 4.79%. And all the other pages are just the income and expense mailers to show where we got the numbers from. And that is all.
I thank you. Mr. Smith, questions of the assessor's rebuttal?
I think Mr. Story has some questions. Did you have questions?
Right.
Yes, if I may. Mr. Deitchen, how many parking stalls are there at the Lady Joyce, 2390 McPhillips?
I do not have that number in front of me.
You don't know?
No.
Would it make a difference to your valuation if there were none versus one per suite? What if there were no parking stalls? What would you do?
I didn't do this workup. I'm not too sure.
Okay. And this, you're familiar, this is a Gautier property on McPhillips, recent built and quickly sold?
Like I kind of looked at the property.
Okay. And it's built essentially on, we used to be part of the car storage land for Gautier, correct?
I'm not too sure.
Okay. It borders on Walmart, you're aware of that?
Yes.
And you're aware that surrounding is a whole variety of different CRUs?
Yes.
Might any of these things, the lack of parking, the location relative to other commercial or commercial adjacent, mightn't they affect the risk to a purchaser?
I could see that as a positive also. I'm not too sure.
It's been published, so Mr. Gautier was interviewed because he built it as a tribute to his wife who passed away. It's called Lady Joyce.
Okay.
And what happened is he sold it because he didn't think that with our climate that you should have outdoor parking or limited parking. And my recollection is there's 49 stalls and there's 90 odd suites. And he sold it for that reason, that he thought that was disproportionate and it was risky because to ensure your occupancy, you want to make sure you have ample parking. So I think that transaction has to be delved into just a little bit. It also came about, they cut off a portion, 3 acres of land in the dealership to allow them to build the Lady Joyce apartment. So there's a whole story, a history behind the Lady Joyce. I'd ask you to put little weight in it, but bear in mind, you can verify it as to how many stalls there are. And there's a woeful shortage of stalls for that property in this climate. Thank you.
Panel members, any questions of the rebuttal from the assessor?
Oh, Mr. Smith has one.
I do have one further question if I could ask, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So in looking at the stabilization here, so the property was sold in October of 2020. And when I look at the revenue projection, so the stabilized potential rent is based on the 2019 rent. Would the rent in October of 2020 not be higher than that rent in the end of 2019?
Potentially, I'm not too sure.
But is it not typical that a multifamily investor would increase by the minimum amount that the Residential Tenancies Board allows them on an annual basis, as long as the market bears it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I thank you. Panel members, any questions of the rebuttal?
No questions.
No questions. No questions. Thank you.
Summation on either party?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
I guess I just want to mention again that the most comparable property is 1745. Best represents market value and supports our valuation. Thank you.
All right, I thank you. We'll go on to 45 Bolton Bay. Mr. Assessor, whenever you're ready, you can take us through this property.
Okay. 45 Bolton. File number 223587, roll number 120976197700. 45 Bolton Bay, roll year 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021, valued at $12,269,000. Excuse me. Classification 20, liability T, taxable. The year built is 2006. Scrolling down to the income values summary. We got 64 one bedrooms, 32 bedrooms, giving us a total of 94 units. And the average monthly rent is $981.05. Let's go through this quickly again. Expenses 500,684. Gross income is 1,071,212, giving us a net operating income of 575.28. With a cap rate of 4.65, gives us the value of $12,269,000. On to page 4, the rent comparables. You can see we have a range of the average monthly rent, and we're actually below that range. Continuing on to page 5, I did a CMHC work up here just to show that we're actually below market rents, about 21.5%. And page 6 shows the CMHC table of the various rents. Kind of small, but it's there. Page 7 is once again our capitalization rate. Evidence to support that our model is to support our model cap rates. Going on to page 10 is the income and expense mailers. And these ones include a lot of things like food and stuff like that, so you can't really go by the actuals on this. Page 14, some permits for interior alterations, renovations to suites and new finishes, flooring, fixtures, and millwork, valued at $680,000 approximately. That was in 2019, it looks like. Page 15 is the little summary of the different amenities and features of the building. Excuse me. Page 16 on are pictures of the property and seeing inside. You can see that they're essentially normal apartments with full kitchen and everything in there. And then page 20 and on just kind of shows some of the amenities and things offered at this property. And that is my evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Deitchen. Mr. Smith, questions of the assessor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the city is aware the subject property is an independent living facility.
Yes.
Okay, but the model that is used for it in valuation on page 3, this is based on treating it as a standard market apartment.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and when we look forward to page number 4, so the comparables that are here are standard market apartments, I'm assuming.
Yes, I believe so.
And looking at the gross floor area that is shown there, subject is shown as 949 square feet, with all of the others, save Barker, being larger. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And the subject property would have significantly more common area than a standard market apartment, would it not? With the kitchen, the dining rooms, the meeting rooms, etc., that they have for these independent living spaces, as you can see in the photos in our brief as well as yours.
Yes, potentially.
Okay, so that would likely indicate that gross floor area per unit is on the high side for as far as indicating what the actual unit sizes would be.
I don't know the exact sizes of the units.
Okay.
I know.
Looking at the capitalization rate evidence, so this can carry forward for all the other properties as well. Page number 7, 700 St. Mary's, the second cap rate that is presented there. That was done by one of your colleagues, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, he did this cap rate evidence.
Okay. Is the city aware that that property had significant foundational issues and that it was purchased, the foundation was repaired, and it was purchased for renovation, where the suites were then fully renovated and the income profile was completely changed?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. That would probably be one to check out, I guess. And this will carry forward for all the remaining properties as well. On page 8, when we look at capitalization rate text that's there, in the second paragraph, it states for the 2023 general assessment, capitalization rates were derived from model generated estimates of net operating income and sale prices that were time adjusted to April 1, 2021. So as far as the model goes, so not those cap rates that were presented by your colleague, but as far as the model goes, they're estimates of capitalization rates, correct? Not based on actuals?
Correct. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Those are all of my questions. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Hutchins?
I'm looking at the photos, Mr. Deitchen, and these are typical suites with full kitchens. Is that right?
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah, page 17.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that this is assisted living. Do all suites have those kitchens, or some use the common area without kitchens? Would you know that?
I'm not too sure.
Okay.
The pictures I found.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Okay, and my last question was, the suite size referred to by Mr. Smith,
mhm.
would that be the number of units, or pardon me, the total leasable area divided by the number of units? So in other words, the suite area would include common area square
Yes.
footage? Is that fair?
The gross floor area includes common area.
Okay, but when you do your size of the suites for the comparable, you're saying that each suite is per unit is 9. I'm looking on page 4. You're saying each suite is a gross floor area of 949. That would be including common areas. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Berlinski?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Deitchen, there is 94 units there,
Yes.
and there's only 25 outdoor parking stalls?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
And your presentation is all model driven, correct?
That is correct.
I have no other questions. Mr. Smith, your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So 45 Bolton Bay. This is independent living facility, so it's not assisted living in that there's a few more services and a little bit more care involved. This is independent living. For this particular property, they do have full kitchens. They may not be full-size kitchens, but they do have full kitchens, whereas in assisted living, typically you'll have a microwave and a smaller fridge, but not a range, etc. So they differ in that way. The kitchens are present there. However, the unit sizes for these properties are always on the smaller side. They develop them smaller. Typically, they need less space for the occupants. When we were pointing out the issue with regard to the gross floor area per unit, that is both a reflection of the smaller unit size as well as the additional common areas that these properties have. So if you look at the photos, I believe in both of the briefs, there will be a commercial kitchen, a dining room. They generally have numerous meeting rooms, activity rooms, libraries, things of that nature that add to the space. So it exaggerates the overall size of the units when you lump in when you take it straight as an indication of unit size. So just to keep that in mind, the parking has already been raised, but we only have 25 stalls here out of a total of 94 units. So obviously that's significantly less than a standard market apartment where you would have a minimum of 1-to-1 being desirable. So that would have an impact on your ability to lease as a standard market apartment as well if there's no parking available for it. You look at the location of the property. As a standard market apartment, you would certainly want the availability of a vehicle. If we look at page number 2, I guess, as Mr. Chair, I think you had suggested that we can make some minor changes. So I'm not going to make any adjustment to the valuation down to the net operating income, but I am going to change the capitalization rate to 5.75%. Again, when we look at this property on the marketplace as if it were being purchased by an astute investor, well, what are you getting? You're getting smaller sized units. You're getting less parking than is optimal on the marketplace, and you're targeting essentially one segment of the population. So you're limiting your overall market that you can market to. In addition to that, you have a significant amount of additional common area that needs to be maintained. And the risk profile for a property such as this is inherently higher than it is for a standard market apartment. So for that reason, we have applied a 1/4 point increase to the cap rate using 5.75%. This would give us a market value of $9,922,000. The addenda materials, I think, include photos and all of the same information that has already been covered. And again, just with regard to cap rate, if we look at the bulk of the evidence presented, both by commercial brokerages indicating 5 to 6% as a standard range for investment grade properties, and then we look at the cap rates presented on pages 10 and 12, where we have a total of 52, the cap rate presented is well supported. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Deitchen, questions of the applicants?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Just give me one quick second.
Mr. Deitchen?
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at one thing here.
That's okay.
Did you have access to the INEs prior to the sale, and did you do a stabilized NOI?
Sale of subject property?
Yeah. Or sorry, not the sale. Did you have access to the INEs? And did
It's never been sold.
No, sorry, I misspoke. Not the sale. Did you have access to the INEs, and did you do a stabilized on this property?
Well, as I think you had mentioned earlier, there subject property is an independent living facility. So the INEs include the rental amount that is paid includes an amount for the services provided, which is food, etc. So the standard methodology with these properties is to look at a standard rent for the units as per the market, and then make deductions from all of the expenses to pare it down to strictly real estate and value it on that basis. So the rent doesn't really come into it. I didn't have an opportunity to look at the expenses and do that.
Would you agree that 2390 McPhillips is the most comparable to the subject property?
I'll just answer that if I may.
Sure.
45 Bolton Bay has 17, there's 1.7 acres of land. It's very, very small land.
Okay.
The only way that Bolton can operate is they have a lease with 680 Kenniston, which is owned by the same owners, the Mar West Group of companies. And they give them, they rent 31 parking stalls because they have staff and visitors. So that's a huge negative for the property. The other thing is that the that that's always been confusing. Mr. Hutchings brought it up and he's absolutely right. Is that the city takes all of the common areas and plugs it in, and go tell somebody who's living in one of these suites, which might be 300 or 400 square feet, that the city thinks they're all in 900 square foot spaces. It's because they're dividing it an amount that includes all those common areas, and the common areas are exaggerated inside the building because they have to accommodate for activities, for food, et cetera, et cetera. But the main thing is, there's no parking, absolutely no. They have to, if they didn't have the relationship with the neighboring, they'd have no business. Plus, this particular industry with COVID has been absolutely assassinated. It's decimated. And nobody's aware whether or not personal care homes, congregate care, are even ever going to recover. Thank you.
I know you mentioned before, didn't you say that 2390 McPhillips had limitations on parking as well?
2390?
Yes.
Yeah, only because they've only got half of the parking, because they have suites.
So
They have
maybe,
twice as many suites as stalls.
okay, so I'm just saying it's kind of similar to the subject property then.
Well, this is even smaller. What we did is I did the split. We split 3 acres off of the Gautier car dealership to be able to build the Lady Joyce. In this one, they've only got 1.7 acres of land. So they don't even have outdoor parking at Bolton Bay. You can see that there's a roundabout, and at the end of that street is a cul-de-sac. It runs perpendicular to Keniston, and there's no parking in the cul-de-sac, so that even the land that's available from the street, you can't park on it. It's a difficult property.
That's all my questions.
I thank you. Mr. Berlinski,
No questions, thank you.
thank you. Mr. Hutchins,
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Could I confirm the location of this? Are we talking behind the apartments on the east side of Keniston Boulevard between Grant and Taylor?
Yes, exactly. And the big apartment block, that's 680. That's all the same owners, Mr. Hutchins.
Okay.
Same owners as the subject.
And my only other question is, how many parking spaces are available in total, including the adjoining property owned by the same owner?
You have to include those.
There are, but you can confirm.
There are 25 outdoor parking stalls available on site. Any other parking stalls are essentially don't matter because they're not on the property. Whether you can lease them from another location or not is, that's simply down to the fact that they own it. If it were another owner, then that would likely not be the case.
Okay.
So we can't take those into account.
My question is currently there's 25 on site and then 31 in agreement with the same owner but on a different property. Is that
I believe it's 31. It was the last time I looked at it.
okay? That's all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Gentlemen, summation, either party?
I'm fine, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I guess I just want to mention again that we're low on the income, 22% compared to CMHC. And that's all. Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to your wishes, Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith, which is 85 Paget Street. So, Mr. Deitchen, we're a little out of order, but
Yeah, I'm just reorganizing here. Just give me one second.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I have something pressing that I have to attend to if I'm going to excuse myself.
All right. Thank you for attending, Mr. Story.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Your colleague will relate everything to you.
Thank you.
Bye, Sid.
Bye now. Okay.
Mr. Deitchen, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So file number 223581, roll number 10006441200. Address is 85 Paget Street. Roll year 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021. Assessed value $19,923,000. Classification 20, liability taxable. It's a 2008 built apartment, 4 stories. Just going down to the income value summary, we have 86 1-bedrooms, 35 2-bedrooms for a total of 121 units. Average monthly rent per unit is $1,265.05. Gross effective income is $1,759,705. Expenses $793,451, giving us an NOI of $966,254 with a cap rate of 4.85%. Gives us the value of $19,923,000. Going to page 4, we have the rent comparables again. Once again, we fall way below the range of the comparables we have here. They're all relatively newer builds. Continuing on to page 5, we have the CMHC calculations for suite mix and actually as well as year built. It shows that we're like just under the market rent, so we're good. And then the 2 tables of the CMHC rents below. Page 7 again is the cap rate evidence supporting our model's range of cap rates. Going on to page 10, it's the income and expense mailers. Once again, these are assisted living, so they got a lot of other things in the rent and expenses. Page 13, once again, gives you some ideas of the amenities and features of the building. Even shows the monthly rents of the building and stuff. Page 14 on is pictures of the subject property. So similar to the last one, it's got full kitchens, it's got fridge, microwave, oven, full bathroom. And then pages 20 and on show some of the various amenities of the subject, as well as the last few pages kind of just show the different amenities. I guess I'll just say that this is a good area, high demand area off Sterling Lion. It's newer builds near all the Keniston stores. Low vacancy. And yeah, that's all my evidence.
I thank you. Mr. Smith, questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm I'm looking at the photos in your brief beginning on page 16. I'll just wait for everybody to get there. So first one has a living room, bathroom at the bottom. Then we have a couple more. I think they go on through page 19, and then some of the amenities at the end there with a gym, dining room, meeting room, pool room, activity room, etc. When I look at the suites themselves, would it be fair to say that the finishes that we're looking at here are not luxury finishes?
Yeah.
Okay. And in looking at the bathrooms, they're fairly specific to the potential needs of an aging senior with mobility issues, handrails, etc., enclosed, lots of room to maneuver, walkers, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. So just skipping back to the rental comparables on page number 4 then. So this is the one property I had an opportunity to take a few minutes and look at the comps. So comparable number 1, 65 Paget Street. So this is adjacent to it. That would be Lions Park Square. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And all of those units are indicated as 60 or 62. All of the units are 2-bedroom units in that facility.
Yes.
Okay. Whereas the subject is 1 and 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Okay. And in looking at that property, reading about it, it indicated that it's a life lease facility to start with. They are large 2-bed, 2-bath units with indoor parking, ensuite laundry, etc. Is that correct?
I'm not too sure.
So that all being 2 beds and those amenities, 2-bed, 2-bath, those would drive higher rental rates, would they not?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to run through each of these, Mr. Chair. So I'll try and do it efficiently here. 800 Dover Court, also 2-bed, 2-bath, ensuite laundry, luxury quartz countertop, stainless steel, etc. Indoor parking. Would that be accurate?
I'm not too sure.
Okay. And the bulk of those are also 2 beds.
Yeah, there's a mix of 1 and 2s, but yeah, more 2s.
Rather than run through them, would you, we can if you wish, but would it be fair to say that both 3 and 4 would be higher end comparables than the subject?
Based on what?
Well, I can discuss them if you wish, but I was trying to save us a bit of time. So number 3, Bridgewater Heights, 225 Northtown Road. These are described and shown as spacious modern apartments. They're 2 and 3 bedrooms. They have ensuite laundry, luxury build out. Would that drive a higher rental rate?
Yeah.
And similarly, the Spot, which is number 4, 2815 Pembina Highway. Ensuite bathrooms, ensuite laundry, indoor parking, gym, luxury kitchens and amenities, 2-bed, 2-bath as well. That would also drive a higher rental rate.
Yep.
And then finally, just looking at page 5, you had said that the rent for the subject was slightly under the weighted average for the 2005 onward, the apartments built after 2005.
Correct.
Okay, so if the units are units themselves are smaller and have less amenities, would they not rent for a lower amount on an open market?
Sorry, say that again.
If the unit sizes themselves are smaller and they have a lower end finish and less amenities, would they not rent for a lower amount on the open market?
Potentially. It's hard to say.
Okay, those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Robert?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I have none either. So, Mr. Smith, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 85 Paget, very similar to our previous property here. Same location, essentially. We're between Waverly and Kenaston off of Sterling Lyon on the north side. Closer to Waverly than to Kenaston. The subject property is built in 2008. we still have the same issue with regard to parking, and that it doesn't have a 1-to-1 ratio. There's a total of 79 stalls for 121 suites. The units themselves, again, are smaller than a normal market apartment, a fair bit smaller. They're intentionally designed that way for the specific use. You've seen the photos of the interior. It's not that it's not a nice apartment or a nice unit. It's that they're not luxury apartments, and they're not of a normal market size. In addition to that, obviously, there is the same points that we spoke about with the last property with regard to the additional amenity or the additional common areas, significant common areas for the subject property that add on additional expenses for any potential investor. So for the same reasons, on page number 2, I've increased the capitalization rate from 5.75%, or rather from 5.5% to 5.75%. I'll trust that you remember what I spoke about in the last property rather than go through it again. So we're applying 5.75%, which gives us a market value of $16,804,000. And that is my presentation.
I thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Deitchen, questions of Mr. Smith?
Yeah. I guess once again, would you agree that 2390 McPhillips is the most comparable to this property?
Not particularly, no.
No.
We're not looking at we're looking at a property here that is purpose-built, significantly smaller units. So there's not a great deal of similarity necessarily. No, that's a standard market apartment. This is not.
Do you know the size difference between the two properties?
In terms of the units, I know that the Lady Joyce was designed as luxury apartments, so the unit sizes are larger. I don't have the particular figure for it, no.
Have you looked at like the website for Lady Joyce?
It's been inspected by my colleague, Mr. Story. He was involved in the initial development, etc. for it, so he has seen it. Yes.
I was just looking at the website. You could see that some of the layouts are the exact same. Some of the pictures are nearly identical. Maybe some slightly better appliances.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may interrupt here, and this has come up in numerous of my other hearings, we're sitting in a situation here where we're supposed to be viewing the information that's been presented as has been pointed out to me, and I'm doing. We're not looking at additional information to bring into the hearing here. So I don't have the same opportunity to be looking at websites or the city's files, etc. So if we could stick to what's in front of us.
Correct. Okay. So noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Robert, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Robert, I mean, Mr. Smith, you just made a slight little mistake. You had said something about 57 parking spots. There are 57 outdoor, 22 indoor.
Yeah, I believe I meant 79. If I misspoke, I apologize.
Okay,
79 in total.
I just wanted to bring it to your attention, that's all.
Thank you.
Summary, either party?
No.
No?
I'm fine, Mr. Chair.
All right. We can do one more property, then take a break, or do you want to take a break now? Gentlemen?
I would like to proceed, but I don't want to cause anybody any problems, so I'm open.
Yeah, we can proceed.
Okay, let's go to 690 Kenniston. Boulevard.
Okay.
Mr. Deitchen, the floor is yours.
Okay. File number 223586, roll number 1207-388-1700. Address is 690 Kennison Boulevard. Earlier 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021. Value is $24,250,000. Class 20, liability taxable. The year built is 1978. Going on to the income value summary, we have 27 one bedrooms, 137 two bedrooms, and then 1 3 bedroom, giving us 165 units. The average monthly rent per unit is $1,277.68. We'll go through this quick. Effective gross income is $2,448,852. Expenses $1,127,207, giving us an NOI of $1,321,645 with a cap rate of 5.45%. Gives us the value of $24,250,000. Going on to page 4, we have the rent comparables. And at 1277.68, we fall in the range of the comparables. Page 5, we have the cap rate evidence once again, just showing that our model supports the range of caps. Page 8 is the income summary statements. Page 10 shows some a little ad that I found on Marwest website that just shows that there's contemporary suites with modern interior finishes and up-to-date lifestyle amenities. Just showing that they're updated. Continuing on to page 11 gives us a little bit of details on the amenities and information on the apartment. Going down to page 12 and forward, gives us a few pictures of the suites. And I guess I'll just say that once again, this is a good area close to IKEA and the outlet mall and whatnot. And the actual vacancy is like less than 0.5% according to their mailers. And that is my evidence. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Smith, questions?
Yes, just very quickly, page number 3. So the page number 3 and pages numbers 8 and 9, I guess it is. So when I look at the gross potential rent that the city's model has of $2,529,000 plus versus the actual 100% occupied rent on page number 8 of your brief of $2,239,000 plus, would that not indicate that the model is on the high side when projecting the rent?
Potentially it would be hard to say without doing a stabilization.
And similarly for the expense ratio, if it were higher than that projected by the city, that would then again indicate a lower NOI, would it not?
Yeah.
Okay. And you had spoken about the units themselves. I know they had some text on their website, which is shown on your page 10. So the units, when we look at pages 13 onwards in the photos, we're essentially looking at flooring, right? The cabinetry in the kitchens, the ranges, etc., look fairly original. Is that correct?
For this specific suite, yeah.
Okay. So would it be likely that they would put one of their lower end suites on their website as a draw for tenants? Sorry, these are difficult questions, and I don't mean them to be confrontational, but I got to get the point across.
No, that's fine. I guess all I was saying is like I'm not too sure what other suites look like, but yeah, I think you're correct. They would probably.
Fair enough. That's all of my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchins.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Robert, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Smith, your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 690 Kenniston, Bolton Estates Apartments. Built in 1978, we have a total of 165 units, being largely a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms, a larger percentage of 2 bedrooms, which can present leasing issues. They have 137 2 beds versus 27 1 beds, and a single 3-bedroom unit as well. Adequate parking on site, so that's not an issue. The age of the structure, of course, 1978. So it is getting up there in terms of the age of the property. We have the exact same issue with regard to the balconies for this subject. As I mentioned, concrete, older concrete blocks with balconies for each unit. They do face repair and replacement issues for these balconies on a 20 to 25 year basis. And at this point in time, they're $30,000 to $40,000 a unit for a full redo of those balconies. So there's significant capital costs for there. I know from my contacts with numerous residential property managers that investors are looking twice at what they're willing to pay for properties like this because of those capital expenditures. You also have issues with underground parking where the capital outlay for repair of those is significant. We don't have indoor parking here, so that's not an issue, but we do have those balconies. So that should be taken into account in the overall view of the market value for the property. Now, when I look at page number 2 of our brief, as we noted before, the valuation that has been done is in agreement down to the net operating income. I may not personally be in agreement with that, but that is what it's presented. You look at the actual income and expense that is included in the material before you today. It's about $105,000 less. If you run through the numbers, now we're not going to base our valuation on that, but that is the case. So using that in-place NOI of $1,321,000, a capitalization rate of 6% has been applied. Now, if we look at the subject, it's an older block built in 78. It has all of these balconies that will require capital expenditure at some point, which a purchaser would take into account. And when we look at the actual units themselves, if you look at our page number 6, 7, 8, 9, you can see that the interiors aren't fully fresh and modern. They replace stoves and ranges and dishwashers when needed, but there hasn't been a redo of the unit. They've put in new flooring, but cabinetry is all largely original. Sinks, countertops where they're fine have remained, so it hasn't gone through that refresh stage. So that should be taken into account with regard to the cap rate as well. So a final cap rate of 6% has been applied. Again, if we look at the Collier's information presented in the back of the brief on whatever page it's presented on here, page number 43, we have high-rise properties ranging between 5 and 6%. Now the subject's obviously older. All of the things I've indicated would put it towards the upper end of that range. Additionally, we have page number 44. I believe this is either the C.B. Richard Ellis or Cushman Wakefield cap rate survey. It doesn't actually indicate, but if we look at the multi-res column for Winnipeg, it indicates high rises from a low of 4.5% up to a high of 5.5%. Now, with low rises, 5 to 5.75%. Subject is older than certainly the upper end of the range that they're indicating. So, using a cap rate of 6%, we come to a final market value of $22 million and $27,000. Again, keep in mind the actual NOI in the relevant year is about $105,000 less than that projected. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Deitchen, questions of Mr. Smith?
Yeah. I guess using the same comments from 299 Queen Street regarding 1745 Henderson and its 4.24% cap. The subject is 14 stories, similar, or another high rise, correct? Similar to 1745 Henderson?
It is a high rise, yes.
The subject is also similar in age. Would you agree?
It is similar in age. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the property you're referring to here.
Yeah, on page 43 of your brief, I believe, or 42, sorry.
Okay, let me flip forward there.
Yeah, 1745 Henderson.
Yeah, so the subject's slightly older than that, but it is also a high-rise block. Again, I think I've spoken to this one. I don't have the background with regard to this property, not having done that particular work by myself on it. I don't know whether that had been fully refreshed, what the amenities are. One thing I would point out that it indicates on page 42 is that the property rights are condominium strata. So that particular property has been condominiumized, stratified, where in that the property could be converted and sold off as individual condominium units, which could add to the potential value to a purchaser.
That's all my questions.
I thank you. Ms. Berlenke?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Smith, how many parking spaces are in this? I couldn't find it in your brief. I don't know if you know or not.
Well, I see that it isn't noted in ours. When I look at the city's information, it indicates 214 outdoor parking stalls.
Oh, okay. And is this the one that's related to 45 Bolton? In regards to the extra rent leasing spots?
Bear with me and I'll see whether I have that.
I just couldn't see
it.
It
is
here. Yeah,
it is. It is that. Okay. It is that property. I would again emphasize that we should
fair
be
enough.
looking at.
No, that's all. That's all I need. That I was just curious. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
No other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Summation, either party?
I'm fine, Mr. Chair.
No, thanks.
All right. We're going to probably take about a 10-minute break. So we'll reconvene at 3:12.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are live, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jaswinder. We'll call it a hearing back to order, and we're going to go to the next property, which is 3901 Grant Avenue. Mr. Assessor, the floor is yours, sir.
File number 223583, roll number 0100171490. Address is 3901 Grant Avenue. Roll year 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021. Assessed value is $10,142,000. Class code 20, liability taxable. It's a 9-story, 1979 year built with an age of 1989. Total number of suites 76, 13 indoor parking, and 90 outdoor parking. Going to the income value summary, there's 33 one bedrooms and 43 2 bedrooms, giving us 76 total units. An average monthly rent of $1,083.09. Effective gross income $956,611. Expenses $454,582, giving us an NOI of $502,029. Cap rate is at 4.95%. Giving us a value of $10,142,000. Going to page 4, I have the rent comparables. Once again, similar ages, suite mixes, and it falls at the bottom of the range for average monthly rent per unit. Page 5, once again, is the cap rate evidence supporting the model's cap rate. Skipping on to page 8 is the income statement for the subject property. Page 10 once again has kind of the summary of different amenities and features of the building. Page 11 and 12 show the few pictures that I could find of the building. I couldn't find any interior pictures. Once again, good location, across from strip mall and some restaurants, and next to no actual vacancy according to their mailer. And that is my evidence. Thank you.
I thank you, Mr. Assessor. Mr. Smith, questions of the assessor?
Yes, just a couple. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this valuation is model driven as well as the others here today?
Correct.
So looking at page number 3, subject properties built in 79. I see you have an effective year of 89 on it. And the cap rate is 4.95%. When I jump back and look at very similar properties, 690 Keniston, built in 78, cap rate was 5.45%. 299 Queen, built in 78 with a 88 effective year, 5.25%. Just wondering what the model has done to project 4.95% as the cap for the subject.
I'm not too sure. I'm not a modeler.
Okay. Those are all of my questions. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Hutchings.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question of the location. Are we located in Charleswood, the subject property?
So let me just double check. The NCA is Varsity View, so I guess I think that's close to Charleswood.
Okay. Is it maybe you don't know, but is it across from the Charleswood Shopping Center on Haney and?
It's across from a shopping center. I'm not 100% sure which one it is. I'm looking at it right now. It's on the corner of Grant and Laxdale.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Ms. Berlinski?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the subject property is located in Charleswood. It's on the north side of Grant, east of the Bill Clement Parkway, across from the Charleswood Shopping Center. So that is where it's located. Similar property to a number of the ones we've looked at here today already on Grant Queen. The property was built in 1979 with a total of 76 units, split between 1 and 2 bedrooms. And photographs of the property. There's one of the exterior on the front of the brief, and a couple beginning on page number 5 onwards, just a couple of the interior. Sorry, bear with me for a moment. Property is professionally managed, and I probably should have pointed that out earlier. The properties that we're looking at here today are all professionally managed and owned by either large investors or astute investors. So they do look to maximize their revenue, of course, in the marketplace. What I'll point out with the subject property, again, similar to Queen Street and the one that we were looking at on Kenniston, is the balcony issue. We again have a masonry concrete building with full balconies, and as I mentioned before, capital expenditures for those balconies on a replacement basis is $30,000 to $40,000, and there is typically annual upkeep of in the neighborhood of $1,000 per unit as well for that particular issue. Subject property is a 55 plus rental apartment as well. So I'll take you forward to our page number 2, where the valuation is. And as with the others, the net operating income is the same as the city's. And in this case, similar again to Queen Street and Kenniston, a capitalization rate of 5.5% has been applied. Mr. Chair, I've run through our discussion of cap rates a number of times, so I don't want to cover the same ground over and over. It's selected for the same reasons: age, issues with regard to capital expenditures and the impact of that on investors' view of these types of properties in the marketplace, as well as the other issues I've already discussed. So using 5.5%, we come to market value of $9,128,000. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Deitchen, questions of the applicant?
Yeah. Similar, I guess, to the comments on 690 Kenniston. The 1745 Anderson and the cap evidence at 4.24%. Would you not agree that it's similar? It's a high rise built in the 80s.
Yeah, so yeah, I can't really add a lot to my earlier comments. Yes, I would agree it's a high rise built in the early 80s, but again, you're relying on a single comparable, so we need to look at the overall marketplace.
Okay, that's all my questions.
I thank you. Mr. Belenky?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings,
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
either party wants summation?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Let's go on to the next property, which is 140 Eaglewood Drive. Mr. Deitchen, the floor is yours.
These next two properties are pretty similar, so they'll be, I guess, treated similarly. File number 223588, roll number 030929924555. Address is 140 Eaglewood Drive. Roll year 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021. Our assessed value is at 17,054,000. Class code 20, liability taxable. So there's 5 buildings on this property, and they range from 2018 to 2019 year built. 74 suites total with 106 outdoor parking. Scrolling down to the income value summary. We have 21 bedrooms, 32 bedrooms, 22 3-bedrooms, and 2 4-bedroom units, giving us 74 units with an average monthly rent per unit at $1,493.22. Effective gross income is $1,270,288. Expenses $536,951, giving us an NOI of $733,337. Cap rate's at 4.3%, giving us a value of $17,054,000. Page 4, we have the rent comparables again. Tried to find some newer built properties with similar suite mixes. And we fall in the range of the average monthly rent per unit that are listed here. Page 5, once again, is the cap rate evidence supporting our model's cap rates. Continuing on to page 8, this just shows that these income and expense statements are actually combined for 140 and 160 Eaglewood Drive. So if we're just looking at the total revenue for the property and dividing by 2 and then dividing the expenses by 2, we come to an NOI on their mailer of $860,000, whereas we're at $733,000. So it's about $130,000 lower that we have compared to the actuals. And then continuing on to page 11, we have some pictures of the interior and some of the common areas and some of the finishes. Sorry, just a second here. Yeah, I guess once again, this is a good area in Bridgewater, close to a lot of amenities and sought after. Even our modeled expenses are probably higher than what a lot would be for newer builds. Also, the cost of construction in 2019 was $15.5 million, and that's not including the land value. And that is my evidence.
I thank you. Mr. Smith, questions of the assessor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So when you looked at the income and expense, I believe you had stated the net operating income was about $130,000 lower than the projection.
Our NOI is 130,000 lower than the actuals. Yeah.
Okay, that's not the way it came out, I guess. Perhaps I misheard you, but I thought I heard you say that the NOI was $130,000 lower than what the city had projected.
No. I could go through the calculations if you want.
No,
I just don't
it's quite all right that we don't need to do that. Okay. I think you'd also stated construction cost of 15.5 million. So we're not valuing the property on a cost to construct basis, are we?
No, but any person selling this property wouldn't sell it for less than what they built it for.
So when I'll deal with that in my presentation, I guess, as it always pops up. I have another question. Sorry, just bear with me for a minute here. Cap rate of 4.3%. When I look at the actual cap rates that were calculated internally on page number 5, calculated by your colleague internally there, none of them are at none of the only new build is 2390 McPhillips, and while we disagree on the cap, your cap rate is 4.79%, correct? Whereas the subject, there's a cap rate of 4.3% applied to it.
Yep, that's what it is.
And so how would the model arrive at a 4.3% cap if the only real recent significant transaction was at 4.8%?
I'm not too sure.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Hutchins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Deitchen, can you tell me where this is located? I'm not familiar with this street.
It's in Bridgewater. I'd have to just bring it up 1 second. I'm not too familiar with Bridgewater either.
Yeah.
I guess it's just off Waverly Street.
It shouldn't.
Okay.
Kind of on the corner of Waverly Street and Eaglewood Drive, it looks like.
So south of Bishop Grandin, would that be fair? Waverly,
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all I needed. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Robert?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Deitchen, the 4.3 cap rate seems to be a little on the low side, but is that mainly because of the year that it was built? It was built in 18 and 19, correct?
Yeah, because it's a newer building. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So is that the lowest rate that the city uses? Do you know?
I don't think so, but I'm not too sure.
Okay. But that low rate is based on the age and location, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
And like you said, the building permits are like 5.1, excluding land, eh?
Total for like the whole all the buildings is 15 and a half-ish.
Oh, that's for the other property too.
Sorry?
Is that for the other property too?
No, that's just for these. That's for all the buildings combined. Yeah.
Oh, for the buildings combined. I mean, you're talking about 140? Are you talking about 140?
Yeah, all 5 buildings that are on there.
Okay. Because the sister block is probably next door.
Yeah, and it's exact same. It's just like the flipped. Yeah.
Okay. But there's 5 buildings on there.
Yeah. 2 kind of smaller ones and 3 bigger ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, it's an unfair question, but did you get a chance to drive past these or inspect the properties at all?
No, I didn't.
No. Okay. So like you said, everything's model driven in regards to the evaluation.
Correct.
Okay. I thank you. Mr. Smith, your presentation.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
Ron, could I ask a question actually arising from that?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Dykes, I'm looking on page 13. So the top photo where the apartments are separated facing each other by sidewalk, is each suite, is there two floors of suites? Is it 2 stories? Do you know?
I'm sorry, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I think it is, but I can't speak.
Yeah.
to
And I'm wondering where the parking is. It on the rear of each unit?
that. Like it's on the sides and kind of all around it. I'm just
Okay.
looking at the overhead view. Yeah, they're kind of on the sides and.
Where did you have an overhead view? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, just on our ATVI view. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm sure you can see it on Google probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. Fine. That's good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess just to start with, I'll, as it always pops up, it seems, with regard to permits and construction costs, the cost to construct that was put on a permit, which I will point out is not in evidence today, was indicated as 15.5 million. So this is always used as support for the valuation of the property here being assessed at a little over $17 million. So when a developer develops a property today, they're not looking at what their initial cost to construct is with regard to the value of that property. Their investment is spread out over a time horizon. So it may cost them 15.5 million to construct plus land value, but their return is generated over the period of time that they hold that, plus the increase in value of the property over that time. There's models for this. They do discounted cash flows and they project what their return is going to be over time. So that initial cost to construct really has no reflection on what the actual market value of that property is. If it costs them $15.5 million to build, no, they're not going to sell it in year one for $15.5 million, nor do they expect to get $15.5 million. The market for these properties is income based. They're purchased and sold based on the revenue that they produce. So the cost to construct, obviously it costs significant amounts these days to construct properties. That's all taken into account. Financing comes into it. It's a bit of a red herring. So, and as I pointed out, it's not in evidence today in any case, so we shouldn't even be discussing it. Let's look at the subject property. So we're looking at the Brio brownstones. These are located in the Bridgewater area in that Waverly West development, Bridgewater. They are generally multi-floor units. And there's a total of 74 suites. The breakout has already been described for you. The brief that we have provides a couple of interiors. So new property, obviously nice. It's designed for the market that they're serving, which is an upper end market, obviously. So the rents, et cetera, that are there are the maximum that they would be able to achieve on the marketplace. We look at the valuation for the subject property. The income expense was brought up again. We're looking at a single year there. That's not a stabilized valuation done over a period of time. Obviously, vacancy fluctuates, as does rental rates according to demand for the units, etc. So we can't put a lot of reliance necessarily on that. Looking at our page number 2, as presented, the net operating income is the same as the cities. In that the model we're agreeing with their projection of net operating income. I'm going to make an adjustment to the capitalization rate here for this particular property. When we look at the capitalization rates evidence presented on page number 10. In this case, there is actually a very good comparable, that being number 6, 100 Lumen. These are townhomes that transacted, newly constructed townhomes in the same area, and they transacted at a cap rate of 4.95%. Now, if we look at the other newly built properties, again, 2390 McPhillips is not at 4.79%, it's at 5%. Some of these other properties, while new, are smaller. So we're not going to necessarily put a lot of weight on cap rates of 7%, etc. 703 St. Anne's is a significant sized property, traded at 5.25%. Luxury accommodation there, backing onto the Seine. Given this evidence, I'm going to change the cap rate from 5.5% to 5.0% in our analysis. And this would give you a market value of $14,667,000 for the subject property. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Deitchen, questions of applicant?
No questions.
Mr. Hutchins?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Belenky?
No questions, thank you.
I did submit the cost list as rebuttal. I'm not sure if that was allowed or if it's necessary.
Wait 1 second, okay. Mr. Smith, how, why are you changing and going down to a 5% cap rate?
Well, Mr. Chair, as I guess we've discussed a little earlier, I wasn't initially involved in the valuations as presented. I believe that 5.5% is too high of a capitalization rate for the subject property. It's newly built. It's in a good location. It has it was well constructed, well designed, etc. Seems to serve the market well. We believe that given the evidence of the sales of newer properties centering around 5%, we believe that a cap rate of 5% is more appropriate.
Okay, I thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Deitchen, you said you had rebuttal?
I submitted the cost list as rebuttal. I just wasn't sure if that was needed or if it's...
What did you submit?
The cost list for the property.
The cost list.
Yeah, it was like the breakdown, kind of what I spoke about before.
But I think you sort of stated it anyways. Okay, so.
We didn't actually present anything with regard to cost, just to point that out.
Yeah, and I think that's sufficient unless you want to pursue that.
No, I just had a summation once we're done.
Okay. All right. Summation, either party?
Yeah. I kind of like I said before, going by the actuals, the NOI coming in at $860,000 approximately. Even if you applied a 5% cap rate to that number, it comes in higher than what we have right now at around $17.2 million. So maybe the cap's slightly low, but the NOI is way low. That is all.
I thank you. Mr. Smith, summation? If you
Um,
want.
I would, no, that's fine. Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Chair.
All right, let's go to the next property, which is next door, 160 Eaglewood Drive. So I understand that it's probably like the sister building. So Mr. Deitchen, you can take us through this property?
Okay, it's file number 223589. Roll number 0309-299-8560, and this is at 160 Eaglewood Drive, right next door to 140. Same thing, roll year 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021. Assessed value is at 16,719,000. Classification 20, liability taxable. So there's a same thing, 5 buildings, year built 2019, 74 suites, 82 outdoor surface parking. Going down to the income value summary, we got 21 bedrooms, 31 2 bedrooms, 21 3 bedrooms, and 2 4 bedrooms. I think the only difference on this one is one less 3 bedroom, I think. Continuing on, the effective gross income is 1,246,613. Expenses 527,691, giving us an NOI of 718,922. Same cap rate at 4.3%, giving us a value of 16,719,000. Going down to page 4, we have the rent comparables. Same comparables as the last one. Once again, we fall in the low end of the range for average monthly rent per unit. Once again, the cap rate evidence showing that showing the support of the model cap rates. Scrolling down to page 8, we have the income and expense mailers. It's the same mailer because it was combined with the other one, so it's same information. And scrolling down to page 13, it's actually the same kind of pictures and of the suites. Sorry. Once again, it's the same thing, newly built in Bridgewater, highly desirable, and the actuals that are reported are much higher than what we have in our system or for our values, and that is my evidence.
I thank you, Mr. Deitchen. Mr. Smith, questions?
Just a moment. So just the one question, I guess, the property, this property is identical to the last one, and yet we have a difference in value. Do you know how the other one, 140 being valued at 17,054,000, and this one being valued at 16,719,000? So do you know why identical properties would be valued differently by the models, built in the same year, same build out, same location?
I'm not too sure. There is one slight difference. There's one less 2 bedroom on this one and one more 3 bedroom on the other one. So it's slightly different mix, but yeah, besides that, I'm not too sure.
So it would be valuing the 3 bedroom higher as more playable?
I'm not too sure. That's the only difference I can see between the two. I was just pointing that out.
Okay, those are my only questions. Thank you.
I thank you, Mr. Hutchins.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Robert, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Deitchen, if you have identical sort of buildings and like you said, but I see that the 140 Eaglewood Drive has got more parking. It's got 106 compared to 82, but also there's, like you said, I think there's one extra 3-bedroom in the first one at the 140, and there's one less the other way, so.
Yeah,
But if, so I guess that makes the difference, or?
yeah, probably. I'm not too sure.
Did you look at this at all, and say, well, if they're identical, I mean, they're, but they're off a little.
Yeah, like that was the only difference. Like, I don't know why one has more. It
Mhm.
looks like they should have almost the same parking, to be honest, but
Yeah, or close,
Close, yeah.
which they sort of are, but, okay.
mhm.
Okay, Mr. Smith, your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, I'll try not to make any jokes here.
Well, you can.
Although I'm
It's Friday.
tempted, but anyway, we have the same property essentially. It's identical to the neighboring property. There may be one less 2-bedroom here and one more, or vice versa as far as the 3-bedroom goes. But for all intents and purposes, it's the identical property. It abuts the other one. Everything is equal essentially. I'm looking at.
You're right.
May I have a moment?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can have it up for discussion if you like.
Mr. Chair, could I possibly ask for like a 3-minute break?
Let's take 5. Let's take 5, and we'll let you figure out your new NOI. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, wait till we're shut down here, and then you can deal with it, Trevor.
Thank you.
Good night, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll call the hearing back to order. Mr. Smith, your presentation, and you were going to probably adjust some figures, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as I said, property is identical to the adjacent one. When I'm looking at page number 2 and the valuation that was included here, to be clear, I guess, I don't know where these figures came from. They're not present in our brief. When I look at the income and expense information, which I hadn't seen before, which is included in the city's brief, doesn't match those figures either. If having looked at 140 Eaglewood, the valuation for that property was in agreement up to the NOI with the city of Winnipeg's. I would suggest that that was the intent here. I do not know where these particular figures were derived, but again, they don't match what I see as having been submitted. So if my suggestion would be that we would, as the properties are identical, mirror the same net operating income as the city of Winnipeg's. And again, use a capitalization rate of 5% rather than 5.5%, as I don't believe that's a reasonable capitalization rate to apply to this particular property, given the evidence. It should produce a greater market value than that would produce. That would be underestimating it. So if we do that and apply the 5% to 719,922 as an NOI, we get a market value of $14,378,000.
Very good, Mr. Smith. Mr. Deitchen, questions of Mr. Smith?
Well, I had a whole bunch of questions before that.
I think we all did.
Is there a reason why you didn't use the actual NOI from the mailer?
Again, I'm just seeing it for the first time here.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Okay. Panel members, any questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Summary, either party?
No, thank you.
I guess just the same as before, if we use the actuals of 860,000 NOI, even at a 5% cap, we're around 17 million, or just over 17 million, 17.2 million. So realistically, this one could be a bit higher. That's all.
Mr. Smith?
I have no summary. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to the last one, which is 373 River Avenue. And Mr. Deitchen, the floor is yours, and there might be a little non-co-op issue, so we'll let you proceed with that.
Okay.
I can save us time on the non-co-op if you wish.
Okay, if you don't mind.
We would accept the non-co-op.
So the non-co-op issue, you knew nothing about it or anything like that, and it's going to be granted to the city?
Yeah, I personally know nothing about it. I did ask my colleague and he said that we should accept it.
All right. Panel members, any questions?
None, thank you.
No
You're
questions, thank you.
Yeah, you're okay with the non-co-op issue
Yes,
and granted to the city? Okay, so Mr. Smith, with that ruling, you will be presenting first, so the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the subject property, as you can see from the cover page of our brief here, it has the initials and a logo TLC above it. This is a transitional living center, and it is designed to support persons living with brain injuries. So the suites themselves are open concept suites for accessibility. They have such non-standard things as wheel-in showers, more wide open kitchens, so one-sided galley kitchens, bathrooms with more maneuverability space for walkers, wheelchairs, things of that nature. So it is, well, built in 2016. It's somewhat non-standard in that respect. It is obviously located on River Avenue, built in 2016. Given the intent of the property, they have only 50% parking, so they have 15 stalls for a total of 30 units. Now, a lot of that's probably being for staff, etc. As obviously with individuals living with brain injuries, etc., parking was not a great need for them. So it was designed as such with only 15 stalls for 30 units. So well below standard with regard to With regard to typical one-to-one ratio or more than one-to-one ratio in the marketplace, if we look at the remainder of the brief, there's a couple of photos, exterior photos, one or two interior photos that give you the image of the galley style kitchen, etc. The finishes, again, we're not looking at luxury appointments here. It's intended to be hard wearing, etc. The finishes are new, obviously, it being a newly built structure, but we're not talking about quartz countertops and luxury kitchens, etc. So, or bathrooms for that matter. The remainder of the brief simply includes the identical material as before. The valuation is shown on page number 1, and the valuation is identical down to the net operating income, where they're in agreement with 264,461 as the net operating income. Again, I would make an adjustment to this valuation. Looking at the subject property, newly built, decent area, underparked significantly, which is an issue. Side story, my wife and I owned a condominium in the very same area, and we were constantly being asked if we would rent out our parking stall separately, as parking is in demand in that area. So when you're underparked to start with, it certainly a significant issue. As a tenant on the market looking to rent that space, if you have other options out there, and these days there are many other options, as there's a lot of newly built space out there, a lot of condominiums that are being rented, etc. You're going to take one with parking before one without parking, or you're going to want to pay less for the other one. That being said, I feel a reduction in the cap rate. Again, looking at the cap rate evidence presented is in order. I would reduce the cap rate for this property to 5.25%. And if we do the calculation on that, we come up with a market value of $5,037,000. And just bear with me for a minute. So looking again at the suite count, which I forgot to mention. So we're looking at 7 bachelors and 23 one-bedroom units here. So that also has an impact on your leasability. You're looking for generally a balance in the suite mix between one and two bedrooms, not always exactly identical. Bachelor units are less in demand and less rentable on the marketplace. So that would be a bit of a detriment as well. So again, using 5.25%, we get a market value of $5,037,000.
I thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Deitchen, questions?
Is this property owned by TLC?
I'm afraid I don't have that information. It says 373 River Avenue Inc. and not having had an opportunity to look at it, I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's leased out, but okay. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Belenky?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Smith, just one question. You're down to 5.25, and that is, and no, you don't want to go to the 5% due to the age of the property?
Not due to the age, no. It would be, again, more It's relatively recently built in 2016, so that wouldn't be a factor. It's more with regard to the leasability of the units on a normal market basis, where you only have 50% parking, one stall per every 2 units. That's a significant issue. And then we also have, well, there's the build out where it's more open plan and specific fixtures such as wheel-in showers, things of that nature. Not everybody on the marketplace is going to want that, obviously. And we have bachelor and 1-bedroom units versus 1 and 2-bedroom units. So 7 bachelors out of 30. It all has an impact, so that's why I would apply 5.25%.
All right, I thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Deitchen, your presentation.
I'm kind of new to this. I don't have to go through all like the details at the start, I guess. Hey.
No.
Okay.
You can briefly summarize it.
Yeah.
Your NOIs are the same.
Yeah, NOIs are the same. Our cap rate's at 4.7%.
Okay.
Our value's at $5,627,000.
Ron, could I ask? I'm sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Smith never read in the roll number or the file number or anything in his presentation.
Sorry about that.
So we don't have it on record, I guess.
We'll go back. Mr. Smith, do you mind doing that, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my first time.
Yeah.
So the file number is 22-3847, and the property we're dealing with is roll number 120978033715.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hutchins. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Deitchen, the floor was yours.
Yeah, just quickly, the rent comparables show that we're at the low end of the range for average monthly rent per unit. Skip ahead. Here's some of the non-compliance issues or things I added in. And then just a couple pictures near the end of the suites and the building. Just once again, it's a very desirable area. And yeah, that's my evidence.
I thank you. Mr. Smith, questions?
I have no questions.
Panel members, questions? Robert?
No questions.
Okay, the other Robert?
My only question is the location of this property. I'm not sure where on River Avenue it is.
It's right at corner of River and Bryce Street.
So we're west of Donald.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's a park just to the right of it.
Okay, thank you very much. My only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Summary, either party? Mr. Deitchen?
No.
Mr. Smith?
No, thank you.
All right, Mr. Smith, thank you for your presentations. Results very soon. Mr. Deitchen, nice job, and thank you for your presentations. We have heard all the items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen, and have a good weekend.
You too.
Yes, you too. Thank you. Thank you for your time, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.